You write about adverse childhood consequences.
Sure.
That some kids suffer.
Yep.
In growing up. Being sworn at, insulted, or humiliated by your parents.
Sure. Check.
Being pushed, grabbed, or having something thrown at you.
Check.
Having parents who are separated or divorced.
Check.
Living with an alcoholic or a drug user.
Check.
Living with someone who is depressed or attempted suicide.
Check.
Watching a loved one be physically abused.
Check.
You're batting 1,000.
Yeah.
Given where he came from, J.D. Vance should have been a grim statistic. His parents grew up poor in rural Kentucky. His own tough childhood was in the Rust Belt ruins of Ohio. But Vance escaped what he calls his cultural inheritance, wrote a memoir about it, and landed on the bestseller list. Have you been surprised by how successful it's been?
Yes. How could I not be? Right?
Why do you think?
I'm sitting here talking to Megyn Kelly. This is great.
Explain this appeal, because I think you have your finger on it.
Hillbilly Elegy hit a nerve in the presidential election cycle. Vance became a go-to guy on cable and in print, a CNN commentator, a contributor to the New York Times.
Wow!
He became a guide to the anger, rebellion, and pessimism in the communities that carried Donald Trump. He understood what they cared about and didn't. Do you think that it explains why, when the so-called coastal elites were getting very upset over the many offenses that Trump caused, some of the sexism, some of the foul-mouthed language,
Sure.
that this was not particularly shocking because a lot of these folks had grown up around that?
Absolutely. I've criticized a lot of Trump's rhetoric, and I'm not a big fan of some of the things that he said, but there was almost a sense where people were offended by Trump, not because of the substance of what he said, but because of how he said it. Good society people should not talk in this way. And I just never quite understood that criticism.
Please join me in welcoming J.D. Vance to the lectern.
Vance is in a unique position, a colossal success by any measure. A Marine, a graduate of Ohio State and Yale Law School, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist.
And I relate a lot.
And now an unusual move, back home again to Ohio. He returns determined to work on the very problems that made his childhood there so turbulent. For all its power as a window on the white working class, Hillbilly Elegy is a painful story about a childhood most people would not want to risk revisiting. Vance's father abandoned him. His mother was locked in an endless cycle of drug abuse that escalated to heroin. The toll it took on her young son is seared into memory, like a simple car ride gone wrong.
I said something or some conversation topic really ignited her temper, and then